whispered in the dark, each one a glimpse into something that does not belong. If you are listening alone, do not forget, the shadows are never empty. Settle in and try not to look behind you.
I was 19 when it happened. My buddy was home on leave from the Marines, so I gave him my bed and crashed on the couch. It was one of those L-shaped sectionals, with the short end and an ottoman right at my feet. I woke up before my eyes opened, that kind of half-conscious drift, where your body knows you're awake. When I finally did open my eyes, something was standing right by the ottoman. It was close, too close. The hallway light behind it cast just enough of a glow to see a silhouette. It was 3, maybe 4 feet tall. Its hair hung in greasy clumps, stringy strands hiding most of its face. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My whole body was locked in dread. I was paralyzed. I shut my eyes tight and turned towards the back of the couch. That's when I heard it. Loud, but also not loud. Almost like it was inside my head. Like a voice, a whisper. Don't pretend you didn't see me. I know you did. I stayed still, silent, praying. At some point I heard my buddy get up, use the bathroom, and lay back down. And eventually I must have drifted off. The next morning over breakfast, he asked if I'd been sitting up. Said he thought he saw someone by the ottoman. I didn't answer. I've had sleep paralysis. I've had lucid dreams. But this wasn't that. This was real. I knew what I saw. I don't really talk about this much, because anytime I've tried, people either laugh at me or tell me I was just tired or imagining things. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. Back when I was living alone, I had this small upstairs apartment in an old house. The kind with thin walls and floorboards that always creaked. It was summer, so I'd leave the windows cracked at night, hoping for a breeze. Most nights, I'd fall asleep to the sound of traffic just a few blocks over, or neighbors talking on the porch. Normal stuff. One night, I woke up because the apartment was too quiet. It's strange, but sometimes silence is loud, like it presses on your ears. I remember lying there, listening. The hum of the fridge wasn't there. No cars outside, nothing. Then, faintly, I heard the sound of someone breathing. Slow, steady, not mine. At first, I thought maybe it was drifting in through the open window. But then I realized it was coming from the corner of the room. The far corner, across from my bed, where the shadows were the thickest. I told myself I was dreaming. I held my breath, straining my eyes, and that's when I saw it. A shape, darker than the dark. It didn't move at first, just stood there, tall, still, like it was waiting for me to acknowledge it. I wanted to turn on the lamp, but I was afraid of what the light would reveal. So I just stared, pretending I didn't see. My eyes watered from not blinking. Finally, I couldn't take it. I reached over and flicked on the lamp. Nothing. The corner was empty. Just a pile of laundry on my chair. My heart was pounding so hard it made me dizzy, but I told myself I'd scared myself into seeing things. I switched the lamp off again, but the moment the room went dark, the breathing started back. Closer this time. I froze. I don't know how long I laid there, stiff, under my covers, trying not to make a single sound. Eventually the silence came back, and at some point, I drifted off. The next morning, everything looked normal. I had convinced myself it must have been sleep paralysis or a nightmare. That is, until I noticed something on the floor near the corner. There was a footprint, bare, damp, like someone had just stepped there with wet skin. The thing is, though, I live on the second floor. There's no way anyone could have gotten in without me hearing. And the worst part, the footprint wasn't even facing towards me. It was facing the window. Like whatever it was had been watching me. But it left the moment and realized I was awake. I used to think the worst sound you could wake up to at night was someone breaking into your house. Glass shattering, a door creaking open. Something obvious. But I was wrong. The worst sound is a voice. It happened about a year ago. Middle of the night, pitch black, my room quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan. I woke up suddenly, like something had tugged me out of my sleep. For a moment, I didn't know why, until I heard it. Just a whisper. Right by my ear. It wasn't words I could understand, just this low, breathy murmur, like someone leaning down, lips almost touching me, speaking in a language I couldn't understand. My first thought was that I'd left the TV on, but the glow from the screen wasn't there. The room was pitch black. The whispering stopped the moment I sat up. I reached for the lamp, but the bulb had burned out earlier that day. So I sat there in the dark, straining my ears. My apartment was dead quiet again. I told myself it had to be a dream. I laid back down, trying to laugh it off. But just as my head hit the pillow, I felt the breath again. Hot, damp, right against my cheek. I froze. And then the whisper started back up. Fast this time. Urgent. Like whoever it was wanted me to understand or obey. The sound was so close I could hear saliva catching in the whisperer's throat. I bolted upright, fumbling for my phone to use as a flashlight. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. When I finally got the light on, the room was empty. There was no one there. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. I just sat there, every muscle locked, staring into the shadows until the sun came up. The morning felt too bright, too normal. I almost convinced myself it had been sleep paralysis or a dream that bled into reality, but when I went into the bathroom to splash water on my face, I saw something that made my stomach drop. At first, it was just a crease from the pillow, pressed into my skin. But when I leaned closer to the mirror, I realized that wasn't it. On the side of my cheek, the one that I felt the whisper against, were scratches. Thin, sharp, angry red lines, not deep enough to bleed, but raw enough to sting when I touched them. They weren't random, they were deliberate. The scratches formed a shape, a crooked, jagged, upside-down cross. I grabbed the sink so hard, my knuckles went white, trying to tell myself I'd done it in my sleep somehow. But the lines were too straight, too clean, and every one of them ran in the same direction, as if a hand, not mine, had dragged its nails across my skin. I stood there for a long time, staring at my reflection, listening to the quiet of the apartment. Every so often I'd glance towards the doorway, half expecting to see something standing there, waiting. Eventually the scratches faded, but by the next evening they were nothing more than faint red marks. If I hadn't taken pictures, I almost could convince myself that this had never happened. Almost. Because I can still remember the sound, the voice right against my ear, whispering fast, urgent, desperate. Like it needed me to hear. And the part I've never told anyone, sometimes late at night, when the apartment goes too quiet, I hear it again. Not words, just that same low hiss brushing my skin. And every time I wonder if the next morning the scratches will come back.
You think the story is over, but some things never leave. Not the house, not the dark. We'll be here when the next story begins. And if you want to hear it, you know what to do. Stay close. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chilling tale.